Today at the La Costa Hotel and Spa in Carlsbad, California, greatest sports legends guest host Willie Stargell talks with one of the most prolific quarterbacks ever to play in the NFL. He led his team to 4 Super Bowl victories and was twice named the NFL's Player of the Year. His name, Terry Bradshaw.
Putting the ball on a play. He gets it out deep, and Havlicek steals it. Over to Sam Jones. Havlicek stole the ball.
Starr begins the count. Takes the snap. He's got the quarterback sneak, and he's into the touchdown. The Green Bay Packers are going to be world champions.
Affirmed under a left-hand whip. Allier on the outside driving. Affirmed to Allier. Heads apart. Here's the pitch by Downing. Swinging. There's a drive into left center field. That ball is going to be out of here. It's gone. It's 7-15. There's a new home run champion of all time, and it's Henry Aaron.
For many years, the city of Pittsburgh was known for 2 things: hard-working people and a losing football team. During the 60s, the Pittsburgh Steelers fumbled their way through 8 losing seasons. They were a team that was skilled in the area of total ineptitude. Their performance... Then in 1970, the Steelers drafted a quarterback out of Louisiana Tech named Terry Bradshaw. He was hailed as the new savior of this dreadful team, and the strong-armed rookie accepted the challenge.
This is the new era of the Steelers. Steelers 70. It's not like the old Steelers, believe me. The public, the football world might as well wake up and just take what I'm saying and heed it, because we're going to be a winner this year. I'm sure of it.
Bradshaw would soon find out that creating a winning team in Pittsburgh would be a huge task.
Being a rookie in any pro sport can be difficult, but you were the #1 pick, and people
kiss of death.
Yeah, and the people in Pittsburgh, you know, the media, some of the coaches, even some of the veteran ball players said, "Here's our savior." Now, what kind of pressure was you feeling, say, in those early days?
I didn't walk across the Allegheny River I promise you that. That was a lot of pressure. Well, you have to understand one thing, Willie. I came from a program that was not a major college program, and I came from a family that had sheltered me. I wasn't prepared for anything that was high pressure. I went to a small school and a small program. I was extremely immature. I was extremely naive. I was not prepared for the NFL. I did not know what a zone defense was when I went up to see the Steelers. I'd never read coverages. And we made up our plays, a lot of them during the game. We just gave us a play and we just made everything up. So I had a long way to go, and I was forced into playing early because I was a talented kid and the other guys were not as talented.
In his rookie season with the Steelers, Terry Bradshaw certainly demonstrated his passing ability when given the time. However, on most occasions, the play of his supporting cast made it necessary for him to leave the pocket and make use of his scrambling ability. He often took defenses on all by himself. Despite constant pressure, Terry Bradshaw managed to throw for nearly 4,000 yards during his first 2 years. Gradually, the Steelers improved. Then, in 1972, Bradshaw led Pittsburgh to an 11-3 record and the first division title in the team's 33-year history.
Here come the Steelers out of the huddle. Terry Bradshaw at the controls.
Blocked. Franco Harris pulled in the football. I don't even know where it came from. Absolutely unbelievable.
When you've had a loser for so many years and all of a sudden you're winning and you beat the hated Oakland Raiders, that pride that a town gets, a city and a community, brought the town out and gave them pride, civic pride, and we had fun. Man, it was exciting.
Despite the fact that the Steelers had reached the playoffs in 1972 and 73, Terry Bradshaw had not yet convinced everyone that he was the #1 quarterback. In 1974, Steeler coach Chuck Noll announced that second-year quarterback Joe Gilliam would begin the season as the team's starter. This decision caused Terry Bradshaw a great deal of pain and frustration.
I wanted to be traded, and Chuck wouldn't trade me. I wanted out of Pittsburgh, and they wouldn't get me out of Pittsburgh. And I felt like, you know, my career was maybe at an end. And confidence-wise, I was totally, you couldn't go any lower. And unfortunately for Joe Gilly in 1974, the job was given back to me. But I hated that feeling I was going through. And I'm not going to lie to you, I didn't ever want to experience it again. It made me tougher. It made me appreciate, I'll tell you what it did. It made me appreciate the job. It made me appreciate my ability as a quarterback. It made me work harder.
That might have been your crossroad.
Might have been. It scared me too, I think. Because you know what it made me realize? If someone else wanted the job as bad as I did, and what scared me even more was the fact that this sucker was as good at it or better than I was. Mm-hmm. And I always thought nobody could throw the football like I could. That's my pride part about Terry Bradshaw, but this kid could.
Once he regained the starting role, Terry Bradshaw took the Steelers into the playoffs. There they would battle the Oakland Raiders for the AFC title. Bradshaw's fourth-quarter touchdown pass to Lynn Swann put Pittsburgh ahead for good and sent them into their first Super Bowl. They faced the Minnesota Vikings in New Orleans. Although the Steelers' game plan was to establish a strong running attack, Bradshaw came through with some timely completions. The Steelers went on to beat Minnesota 16-7 for their first Super Bowl win.
Here is Bradshaw rolling right. Bradshaw gets a big block and fires into the end zone, complete for the touchdown. Hitting Larry Brown in the end zone. He got a great block.
Bradshaw and the Steelers had achieved the ultimate. Their dedication and hard work had brought them a world championship, and the loyal fans of Pittsburgh could now rejoice. With his confidence now at an all-time high, Terry Bradshaw went on to have the finest season of his career in 1975. He combined with receivers Lynn Swann and John Stallworth for over 2,000 yards and 18 touchdowns. This potent combination helped the Steelers win their fourth straight division title and their second straight AFC championship. In Super Bowl X, they met America's team, the Dallas Cowboys.
See, to play the Cowboys, you had to be aggressive. You had to go deep. Mm-hmm. Because there's a weakness at them at deep. You can hit them deep. And don't think you're going to throw for 55 or 60%. Settle for 30. But of the 5 you complete, they may be for 150 yards, mm-hmm. See? And that was always the Steelers' philosophy against the Cowboys, was attack them deep. Because you can beat them deep. There's a lot of man coverage out there, and it's hidden, and you can beat them deep. So let's go at them deep, but don't get discouraged if you don't have a high percentage day, because we'll feast or famine, you know. And that's what happened in that game. Now, Swann did the feasting.
The Steelers' decision to attack Dallas deep proved to be a stroke of genius as Bradshaw and Swann put on a spectacular aerial show. They combined for 161 yards, an average of 40 yards per reception. In the fourth quarter, Terry Bradshaw displayed the poise and courage of a champion by standing in against the furious Dallas blitz. Bradshaw's 64-yard touchdown pass to Lynn Swann sealed another Super Bowl victory for Pittsburgh. Although Bradshaw was knocked out of the game, the damage had already been done.
If I hadn't been knocked out, I probably couldn't have handled the last 3 or 4 minutes. So I'm glad I was unconscious. But Swann was just unbelievable, making great catches. I was able to throw a good strike to him put us ahead, the long touchdown pass against the blitz, which made me feel good. So I was able to put the offense together and do the things that they wanted us to do and carry that pressure in that game. And all those things put together, and we beat them. And I played a lot better. It was very gratifying.
Terry, I have an interesting question I'd like to ask. What aspect of the game gave you your greatest satisfaction?
I loved making audibles for the running game. You know, I loved setting up a good running game. As much as I loved to throw the football, it was just as much fun as setting up a running, being the general, being the guy that's seeing what's happening, the flow and the changes and making the adjustments. Being the leader, I guess, being the leader and in total charge of everything that's happening on that football field from an offensive standpoint was my responsibility, and it was fun. I mean, it was a game, where you played mind games, and it was fun. And directing a good ground attack, to set up a good passing attack, setting all that up was, I got a great deal of pleasure from that. That was awfully satisfying.
By 1978, the Steelers' running attack was one of the league's best. This gave Terry Bradshaw the freedom to launch an all-out aerial blitz. Pittsburgh reached another Super Bowl in 1978, where they once again faced the Dallas Cowboys. Terry Bradshaw gunned down the Cowboys by throwing for a Super Bowl record 318 yards and 4 touchdowns. Bradshaw was named the game's most valuable player, as Pittsburgh became the first team ever to win 3 Super Bowls. This achievement certainly reflected the Steelers' indomitable will to win.
We hated losing. We feared losing. We couldn't stand the thought of losing. We were a type of team when we came off the field after losing that threw helmets and got into fights and cussed and drank a lot of beer and pointed fingers among ourselves. We just hated losing.
Terry Bradshaw's courage and determination made him the ideal leader for the Pittsburgh Steelers. He led by example and would do anything to win a game. The Steelers' offense revolved around him, and they seldom came out on the losing end of any contest. In 1979, Terry led Pittsburgh to their 4th Super Bowl of the decade. Their opponents were the Los Angeles Rams.
Did the goal of winning the 4th Super Bowl pose a greater source of motivation than the Rams themselves?
Yes, it was always the Super Bowls. In the mind, it was always the game first. Because see, really, when you walked out on the field and you looked up, that's when you realized this is a big deal. Now, this is our 4th Super Bowl, and they'd gotten bigger and bigger every year. And now the 4th one was almost like, the Steelers win the 4th Super Bowl, it's like, it's immortality.
The Pittsburgh Steelers' attempt to gain NFL immortality was nearly ended by the Rams, who led 13-10 at halftime. In the second half, however, Terry Bradshaw struck with some long-range lightning, which scorched the Rams' secondary for 2 touchdowns. He once again displayed an uncanny ability for rising to the occasion. The Steelers won the game 31-19 to capture their 4th Super Bowl, and Terry Bradshaw earned the game's Most Valuable Player award for the 2nd time.
The players in the National Football League don't appreciate the Super Bowl and what it means until they get there and either win it or lose it. And then they think about the Steelers and they say, these guys did this 4 times. And not only did we win 4 of them, win 4 of them in 6 years. I don't think anybody will ever do that again. And it's the greatest thrill. I'm very proud of that, and I'll have it, and I'll take it with me forever, even when I'm in the grave. There's the guy that won 4 Super Bowls, right? That's it, on the tombstone. It'll be there. They won't say anything else. Mm-hmm. They'll just say 4 Super Bowls, and I'm going to put that in my will to make my wife.
As a quarterback in the NFL, Terry Bradshaw accepted the fact that he was a marked man. He willingly sacrificed his body for the good of the team, knowing that someday he would have to pay the price. On December 10th, 1983, Bradshaw played in the final game of his remarkable career. A serious elbow injury had kept him on the sidelines for 14 games that season. In this game against the New York Jets, the Steelers needed a win to reach the playoffs. The 35-year-old Bradshaw ignored the pain of injury and the rust of inactivity while writing a storybook ending to his career. He threw 2 first-quarter touchdown passes, which propelled the Steelers to victory and a berth in the playoffs. Fittingly, Terry Bradshaw left the game a winner.
That game represented to me the type of player I'd been my entire career, and I guess it was a statement to everyone that ever watched me play. Was, fellas, this is me, and this is how I played. You play with pain, you sacrifice yourself for your team, and you give it your all because that's a type of leadership that spreads, and that's how you win. That 1 quarter, I'll forget a lot about the Super Bowls, but I'll never forget that 1 quarter against the Jets.
Well, Terry, I want to personally thank you for coming to La Costa today to talk about those old, illustrious moments. And believe me, it has been truly a pleasure to have this moment to do this.
Thank you, Willie. I had reservations about doing this show. I'm not much on this legend stuff. I'm not much on rehashing my past, but I talked to my wife. I said, you know, let's be something nice. Because my kids aren't going to believe I was anything, and I'm going to drag this out. I'm going to say, I'm going to plug this baby in. I'm going to say, watch this. You know, they're going to believe all these things, and so this is a very, very special show. And I only regret that, that they've done a show on you, and I only regret that I wasn't sitting there asking you these questions. So thank you. It means a lot to me.
Thank you, my man.
Appreciate it. Okay.
Terry Bradshaw, the #1 draft choice of the Pittsburgh Steelers in 1970, joined a team that had a legacy of losing. During his career, he provided the inspirational leadership that enabled the Steelers to become one of the greatest teams in football history.